Good morning and welcome to another episode of Josh and Pat. I'm Joshua Klein, joined by Patrick Cassett, and this episode is brought to you by our Patreon. If you enjoy the show and want to support, the link is in the description. But yesterday we saw yet another questionable call by Riverboat Ron, or should we say Raft Ron, because he doesn't deserve to be a riverboat in the eyes of Commanders fans. It was a fourth down call by the Eagles. They throw a pass to Devontae Smith, and it was allegedly a catch. Now, in the replay, what we would soon find out is probably wasn't a catch. But Ron didn't challenge. And when asked about why he didn't challenge, Ron Rivera had this to say.
Why did you not challenge that?
Because I didn't see it on the screen. I was looking up the screen to see if there was something that could help me with it. And then I was waiting to hear somebody upstairs, did you see it or not? And we hadn't seen the replay yet. So we weren't sure. So we just, they did their hurry up, ran to the line and snapped the ball. And you would almost think in that amount of time somebody else could have looked at it and might have saw it apparently. I mean, I still don't know whether it was or wasn't complete. It wasn't complete?
No.
He just didn't see the replay. Patrick, is it his fault that the replay didn't play and he couldn't challenge it, or should we really be putting our blame on whoever's running the replay system in the stadium?
Well, you got to think whoever's in charge of that replay system, we got to get on top of that because we can't have that. If the coaches can't see the play happening, then we got an issue. And some are saying, maybe FedEx Field doesn't have the capabilities with technologies to do that. No excuse. This is what I'm going to say. I've done a 180 on Raft Boat Ron. I think this guy is awesome. I think he needs to stay in the league as long as he can because this guy is a joke. This guy sucks. He is a terrible coach. He doesn't know anything. He gets up there. He just starts yelling at people. It's very funny because people question. They're like, what did this guy actually do? I can't tell you. I don't know because he says the defense is in charge. Jack Del Rio's in charge of the defense. Eric Bieniemy's in charge of the offense. It's like, whoa, dude, what do you do?
I mean, what he did was lead a team to the Super Bowl, Patrick. Don't disrespect that.
He did.
He led a quarterback to having an MVP caliber season. So don't disrespect Ron there. Yeah, this whoever's in charge of the replay system, I mean, he is catching heat probably for no reason. There's a chance maybe he just didn't show the replay because it was a big play and like a big gain for the Eagles. And usually fans in the stadium, they don't want to see the other team succeeding on the replay. They don't want to see the big touchdown pass, the big fourth down conversion. But if he was smart, he would know that he would obviously, in the couple seconds he had to get the play, he would know that, hey, that's not a catch. Show the replay. Let everyone know. And there's an art to it. And so maybe they don't have a good home field advantage. I don't know, because if that was in Philadelphia, they probably see that replay. He probably challenges it. Maybe we're talking about a completely different game.
Well, we got to remember, this is only Ron Rivera's second season coaching the Washington Commanders. So he's still trying to get his feet wet with the organization. So, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough look.
Yeah, hopefully they figure things out. Man, they had a chance to win that game. I thought they were going to. Turns out they probably not ever again.
No.
Will they beat the Eagles? That's the way it feels like. Sorry about it, Commanders fans. We're hoping things turn around for you, but unlikely at this point. Hopefully Magic Johnson maybe cooks up something in the lab for you guys.
Right.
I'll tell you what, yesterday, Patrick, and this is probably one of the biggest storylines coming out of the NFL yesterday. It's Will Levis. Will Levis balled out after not even winning the backup job, after being slept on, after having to get pep talked by Michael Rubin. Will Levis comes out post breakup with his girlfriend and balls. I mean, he was slinging the rock. Turns out, if you throw DeAndre Hopkins the ball, good things happen. Patrick, what did you see from Will Levis yesterday, and can we expect him to continue to play at this elite level?
Yeah, I mean, Will Levis officially won the breakup with Gia Duddy yesterday. And, good for him because people were writing him off. They thought he was Geno Smith, and he came in yesterday and he delivered some passes that I'm not a football expert, but it just felt like he was just throwing it up there. And you know what? It was a good plan because you have DeAndre Hopkins and he can just go catch the ball. So, good for Will Levis to do that because people forget, he's a guy comes in, he wants to save this city of Nashville, and now it looks like this might be his team.
So is it definitely like 100% that Ryan Tannehill is going to be the quarterback of the Giants by the end of the year?
Really, because my sources are telling me it sounds like Tannehill is going to be the quarterback for the Vikings by the end of the week.
Really? Okay, so we had different story. I just didn't know anything because is Ryan Tannehill even going to play next week?
And we don't know that, but the sources tell us what our knowledge here at Picks and Pancakes and Josh and Pat tell us is that the trade deadline is Tuesday. And so even if he's not available to play on Sunday, he's got to be moved before that.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's what our sources tell us.
And that's a good point. But D-Hop, man, Will Levis was feeding him. On my bench in fantasy in both leagues, not thrilled about that. I would have loved somebody to tell me that Will Levis was really good. Maybe Michael Rubin did. I missed it.
Well, Michael
D-Hop, he gets the hat trick. He says he's like Geno. People wrote him off. Now, this is where things get a little gray of the Geno comparison because we have to remember that DeAndre Hopkins actually chose to go to the Titans after verbally telling everybody, I want to go to a contender. So I don't think it's apples to apples on the Geno Smith situation.
I also don't remember DeAndre Hopkins getting punched in the face by a teammate and then having to change teams. So that maybe I'm a little bit confused.
Well, that could have been a behind closed doors things between him and Kyler Murray. Maybe Hollywood Brown, because if you think about it, Hollywood Brown wanted to be, wide receiver one. He wanted to be the guy on a team. So we don't really know what happened with the Arizona Cardinals. We do know that D-Hop wanted to go to a team that was going to win games. He chooses a team that doesn't really have a quarterback, not that good, has a little bit of a fall off, and then has to remind everybody, no, you guys wrote me off, but
exactly,
I'm still that guy. And I'm like, did you write yourself off though? That's what I'm like. So, maybe the Titans have life, and they didn't trade away Derrick Henry. So I know personally a couple Titans fans who are very happy, and we hope your potentially 500 season from here on out is worth everything.
Wild card's alive.
So that's awesome. Patrick, there's a game yesterday that was a punt fest. I mean, it was just punt back and forth. A defensive standoff. Giants versus Jets. In a game where it maybe would have been different if Tyrod Taylor didn't get hurt. But unfortunately, for some reason, the NFL overseers hate him. They hate Tyrod Taylor. And it's just sad to see. But backup Tommy DeVito comes in and he gets owned by Zach Wilson. I mean, I've never seen, Patrick, a quarterback dominate another quarterback in the way that I saw Zach Wilson dominate Tommy DeVito. I mean, we're talking about a guy who had over 240 times the amount of passing yards.
Yeah, and that's what the stats tell you, Josh. That's not even what the eyeballs tell you, because the eyeballs tell you that Zach Wilson, with the game on the line, leads a drive down to get his team into overtime. That's the stuff that doesn't go in the stats book. Like, do we see DeVito doing that? No.
And 24 seconds is enough. It's plenty, 24 seconds is plenty of time.
So that's not plenty of time for some people, but for Zach Wilson in the mom community, it is enough.
No, well, you had to go there. It's that he's talking about football.
I am. The moms love him.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's a tough look if you're Tommy DeVito because you had to think that with Saquon Barkley, you could at least just check down to the running back maybe a couple times. Got some yards there.
What?
He gets
Well,
negative. He
I'm
throws
thinking-
for -1 passing yards, which is that's a bad stat. And I asked you before the show if you think that with I believe he had like 7 pass attempts, if he could somehow if you could get more than 1 yard in the NFL. You said yes. And maybe it's completely naive and arrogant of us to say, but I like to believe so as well.
I think so. I think I could at least throw for 0. Like, and that's more. And that's more than
And
Tommy
I'm not
DeVito,
saying
right?
I'm
Like,
better than Tommy DeVito.
like I could go out there and complete 0 passes and throw for 0 yards, and that would be more than Tommy DeVito yesterday. So that's why I like my chances to throw more. But Josh, the thing is when we look at Tommy DeVito, if I was the Giants offensive coordinator, I would have just maybe thrown a screen pass for this poor kid because clearly it wasn't working.
Set him up for something. I mean, he was put in a bad situation. And the Jets got to feel good. Like Aaron Rodgers in attendance, throwing the ball beforehand, looking good. They're thinking he might come back. He's giving everybody hope. Zach Wilson's doing just enough. Just
Having
Zach
Tommy
Wilson's the
DeVito-
guy who's like C's get degrees.
Well, exactly. And C's get degrees to get you to where you need to be. And then you ultimately succeed in your field. And that's the Zach Wilson plan. But for Tommy DeVito, throwing -1 passing yards, playing more than a half of football is the equivalent to when the Giants 2 years ago ran a QB sneak from 3rd and 9. I mean, they just gave up. They gave up, and they thought they could do more, and they couldn't.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. Hopefully they figure things out in that building. Because, I mean, they won a playoff game last year, Patrick. We have to remember. I mean, the fall off.
I don't know how.
It's been hard. Crazy things happened yesterday, Patrick. The Broncos beat the Chiefs. Now, this is the first time in a while. I mean, it's been a minute. Things that happened last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs. One, Peyton Manning was the quarterback.
Yes.
Barack Obama was president of the United States.
Correct.
A gallon of gas cost $2.37, which
We're heading back, though.
I mean, that was, Star Wars The Force Awakens was the #1 movie in theaters, followed by Jurassic World, the first one. And
Not Jurassic Park, Jurassic World.
yes, but it's still not they made multiple Jurassic World movies. This was the first of the, I believe, trilogy. Avengers Age of Ultron was also in theaters, and we're not even talking about Avengers Infinity War or Endgame. We're talking about multiple movies beforehand. Can't Feel My Face. I can't feel my face when I'm with you. That was the top song of the United States. Queen Elizabeth still alive. So lots of things really have changed since the Broncos last won. And you have to, if you're the Broncos, you have to feel ecstatic that your team played well enough that Jerry Jeudy could perform. And who knows, maybe the Broncos can go on an all-time run here. What do you think, Patrick? What did you see there?
I saw a Broncos team that came out, and everybody knew that they were playing for their jobs yesterday. And it wasn't a job on the Broncos. It's a job on everybody else's team. So they all collectively came together, and they said, you know what? If we all play good, we can get the hell out of Denver. And that's exactly what they tried to do yesterday, and I think they did it successfully.
Yeah. No, I agree. Now, if you're the Chiefs, you have to be a little bit worried because now I'm not one to try to look at the negative of a team. I'm always looking at the positive.
No, you wouldn't do that.
Pat. No, that's not who I am. But if we do look at the Chiefs and potentially their season this year, they haven't really beaten a lot of good teams. And they have now lost to a bad team. I mean, so they lost to the Lions, who the Lions are above 500. They lost to the Jaguars, who, I mean, the Jaguars, they're not. They're doing all right, but they beat the Jaguars, so that's good.
It's good for them.
Beat the Bears, okay. You lose to the Jets. Oh no, you beat the Jets. Sorry, but the Jets aren't that good. You beat the Vikings. I mean, the Vikings. We've seen they've had better days. You beat the Broncos. Broncos aren't that good. You beat the Chargers. Chargers only won their third game last night.
Right.
And then you lose to the Broncos now. I mean, Patrick, I don't think this Chiefs team is good. I'm just gonna say it. There's a chance this Chiefs team not as good as everyone thinks.
Personally, I would have scored more than 9 points against the Broncos, but that's just me. And maybe that's showing them that they're not as good as they are. But we'll see. Time will tell, Josh. We'll see. I'm sure they'll figure it out.
And I thought Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes combination was unstoppable, Patrick. I thought that's guaranteed.
Only with the T word in attendance, apparently.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. And their schedule doesn't get easy, Patrick. They go Dolphins, Eagles next 2 games. I think that's going to really tell us a lot about this Chiefs team.
It will. And they'll really probably go 2-0.
Also, somehow, Patrick, the Panthers won a game. Now, we're not going to spend too much time on this. I think that is more of a reporting the novelty of it. But the Panthers beat a Texans team with C.J. Stroud, who was playing out of his mind. And now the question is, does Bryce Young own C.J. Stroud?
Apparently he does, because when we look at Bryce Young, he has a national championship. Bryce Young, he has a Heisman. And C.J. Stroud doesn't have either of those. And by the way, Bryce Young's also beaten C.J. Stroud in the National Football League. Now, some are going to look at the record and they're going to say, look, C.J.'s getting some wins, though. No, because head-to-head, Josh, it's not even a conversation right now.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I really believed in C.J. Stroud, but that was a tough performance.
It's a tough one.
Tough performance. Hopefully they bounce back after this. It's what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and so that's what I'm rooting for C.J. Stroud. Patrick, is the Brock Purdy era over? The 49ers have now lost 3 straight games, and I have to ask, is Brock Purdy finished?
Well, I'll put it like this, Josh. There's a guy they wish they still had the building, and they traded him away, and they're not going to be able to get him back, and that's Trey Lance, because now you don't have the third string backup. You don't have the backup to the backup plan, and that's Trey Lance, because let's not forget, I mean, he never lost 3 straight games as a starter in the National Football League, but Brock Purdy has.
No, and well, also, I'm going to bring up this stat. Brock Purdy has never lost a regular season game with Trey Lance in the building to help mentor. So, if you really think about it, that's on them. Losing 3 straight is really tough. Now, I obviously understand their opponents weren't cakewalks. You had to play Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. I mean, that's tough for anybody, much less a second-year quarterback in this league.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, it's not looking good for Brock, because now the narrative is becoming that he needs a team around him, which when beforehand we all just assumed that he made everyone around him better. Now people are thinking that somehow the 49ers roster is so good that they made him good.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think that if you put a lot of talent around one guy, that maybe he doesn't have to be as good, and it appears that we're figuring that one out.
Man, I don't know what's going on, but this is unprecedented for Brock Purdy, losing not only 3 regular season games, but any. So hopefully he figures it out. He'll bounce back, because I was told he was the next Tom Brady. So Tom Brady bounces back.
What I'm told. Right.
So that's good. Somebody who had what's the opposite of a bounce back game, Patrick?
And yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, Josh.
A bounce back. Okay, what's the opposite of bounce? Bounce forward game? Somebody who had a bounce forward game. Oh, no, because the bounce, maybe what's the opposite of a bounce? like sit still.
Gravity forward.
No, because bounce is coming. Yeah, bounce is going down and then up. I think gravity's still kind of involved in that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just gonna say like sit forward.
Right. I agree.
Kind of like something along those lines. It was Tyson Bagent. Tyson Bagent came into last night's game never losing an NFL game. He was undefeated, perfect record. Last night he didn't look good. But we're sad to say the Tyson Bagent era might be over, Patrick.
No, it isn't because you gave Justin Fields 7 straight losses to still showcase his talent. So we still got 6 straight games, but before we even potentially think about getting rid of Tyson Bagent. So it's just a blip on the radar.
Now, here's something that the Bears could be doing. Now, there's a lot of things that, I mean, wouldn't really make sense in this theory, but hear me out. Tyson Bagent won that game, right? And they're going to say, hey, he played well. We're very impressed with him. They roll with Tyson Bagent because they think he gives them a better opportunity to get that number 2 pick to go get a wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., who could potentially change the culture there. And they know that Justin Fields is too good and that he's going to win them too many games. We've already seen what he can do this year.
And you're not even talking about the Panthers pick that could go number 1, Josh. So you're looking at a
that's why
potential
we know. That's why I said number 2 pick because
right,
they're not fighting for the number 1 pick. They're
right. So you might have a chance to go 1-2. So not only can you get Marvin Harrison Jr., but you're going to be able to bring in another wide receiver too. So if you bring in 2 wide receivers at the 1 and the 2 pick, now you're giving Justin Fields weapons. And we're not talking about Chase Claypool here. You pair him with DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, the endless potential that offense gives you is insane.
Oh yeah. And you have to remember, Justin Fields actually led the league in passing at one point this season pre-injury. So
he did.
So yeah, I think the Bears are going to be just fine. Tyson Bagent, though, I don't want to say this because I am rooting for him. Like I'm rooting for everybody. I'm definitely rooting for him. I hope he's still CrossFitting. I hope he's still working that muscle.
I'm sure he is. I don't think he's gave up the dream on that one yet.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So hopefully he's still working that. Okay, last thing on the docket, Patrick. Josh and Pat updates. Kind of a doozy for me today. There's this girl who potentially, there's this very attractive girl. And I think she's got a boyfriend. Now, did I ever talk to her?
No.
Did I try to express any sort of interest in her? No.
Absolutely not.
But I'm not sure what I did wrong, Patrick.
No, and that's not your fault. It's just things didn't line up your way, and that's you're a busy guy, Josh. I mean, between the fire department and the half marathons and stuff, I mean, it just wasn't in the cards. I mean, that's not your fault though, Josh.
I know. It's just, it's tough to see her go, and I don't know if I could have changed my strategy or done something, but I just doesn't. I don't know what I did or didn't do, but I think it's time to have to unfortunately move on, and it's a sad day.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, Josh, but you'll get through it. No big deal.
Yep. I did run my half marathon though, Patrick, and to all the people who doubted me, who said I couldn't do it, suck it. I did it, and I did it
top
faster
of your field too.
Top of my field. I mean, we're talking about if you took the whole lineup and cut it in half,
you're top.
I'm somewhere in that, and it's not the back half of the front half. It's not there. Like the front half. It's not the front half of the front half, but it's
No.
not the back of the back half of the front half.
Yeah, it's back half adjacent.
And so I'll tell you what. Yeah, I felt good, Patrick. I mean, I'm very sore right now, but we did it, and we feel good. And what's going on with you, Pat?
Yeah, Josh. My only advice is if you go to New York City and you're trying to get around, just make sure if you're trying to get back to your hotel, make sure that you put in the correct hotel and that it doesn't drop you right next to Times Square, because that was not a fun walk back.
No, Pat.
Yeah. So just
Patrick,
double check that.
New York's deceiving because you're like you think everything's just really close to each other, but there's some walking involved.
There is some walking involved, and it's one of those things. Just make sure you double check. That's all. That's my only advice.
Were you subwaying or were you Ubering?
At this point, it was an Uber situation because the subway on the weekends, not as reliable.
Really, because
they're getting that work done on the weekends, Josh.
I've always been exclusively a subway guy.
Right. Well, if that's an option, yes. But sometimes
it wasn't an option. They denied you from the subway.
Well, not exactly. Other things went into it, but just knowing.
Well, you were traveling with a local adjacent person.
Right. I wasn't at this point. This was a solo trip on this one. And it turns out when you get dropped off at the wrong hotel and then you're walking around the Times Square area dressed as Ted Lasso, it is definitely a cultural experience.
But everyone was dressed up, right?
For the most part, yes.
So, bingo, you're good. Well, that's the show, guys. Thank you guys for listening and watching and subscribing. Make sure you guys go to picksandpancakes.com to read everything that's happening in sports. And I would say that you can DM us on Instagram at picksandpancakes to get a free mug, but it's too late. You missed out. What are you going to do about it? Anyway, that's the show. We love you guys. We'll see you tonight for a live stream on TikTok. And yeah, you guys have a wonderful week. Peace.